KFSR at CMAC present the Central Valley Ledger, a public affairs program featuring stories from all over the Central Valley with Sevag Tateosian, 90.7 KFSR.
Welcome to another edition of the Central Valley Ledger. We're recording out of the beautiful downtown Fresno studios of the Community Media Access Collaborative, Fresno Clovis, also known as CMAC Fresno Clovis. And where we're sitting, there used to be a giant dinosaur at one time. This used to be the Met Museum. Why do I bring that up? Because today we have a guest who's an artist. And so usually the building during the Met had art. And even today, through CMAC, there's art around the building. Our guest is Ricky Hill Jr. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So I saw your artwork and when it was displayed here. But before we get to your art, tell us about yourself. You're from Fresno? What's your background?
I grew up in a small town called Fireball, west of here. Grew up there, graduated high school there, moved out here in '98. Been out here in Fresno since then. I now live in Clovis. So, yeah, still in the valley.
Fireball. And
Fireball, yeah.
I'm glad you bring that up because, you know, I watched NFL and there's a quarterback that is from Fireball that did real well for the Buffalo Bills. So a shout out to Fireball. And, you know, he looks like he's promising.
Yeah, oh yeah. He deserves to be where he's at, for sure. Shout out to Josh Allen.
Josh Allen is who we're talking about. But let's focus on Ricky Hill Jr. today.
All right, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about why you decided to get into the art field, because, you know, we're busy. We've got families, we've got jobs.
Oh, yeah.
And so when we do stuff like this show, we have to carve time out in the day for that. So tell us about your background in art, how you got interested.
Well, I think art's always been a part of my life. I've always drawn and doodled on things. As a little kid, growing up in Fireball, not a lot of resources as far as art events or art classes or anything like that. So it was pretty much up to my own imagination until I got into high school. And then my art teacher there really poured it on me, and I loved it. You know, it was so much more than just drawing on whatever I can find to draw on. It was so much I had to learn that I had no idea existed in art form, and it just took off from there.
So you say you were doodling. Any kind of specific things you started drawing and then kind of grew gradually changed, or was it everything?
Yeah, it was a little bit of everything, but back in the 80s, it was mostly drawings of Looney Tunes, favorite cartoon characters, you know, just trying to imitate any kind of thing that sparked my interest. People, figures, it didn't really matter. So
you start getting older and you start continuing with art.
Yeah.
Why didn't you let it go? You know, was this a way for you to express yourself?
Well, there is a point in my life where I did pretty much completely stop doing art because life and adulting, happened. And, you know, you just have to adjust. And the one thing that I didn't have time for was to do any art. And it was about a good, 12 years where it was very scarce. And once I got out of that rut and started painting again, it's like I never stopped. So it was good.
You know, as growing up in Fresno, I'm noticing lately I'm seeing a lot more art and music and creativity. I don't know if it's just me getting older and I'm catching on to stuff like that, or is there a change? Tell us a little bit, is there a change? Is the industry of art becoming more popular here?
I believe so, yeah. I mean, I'm with you on the whole getting older thing, and am I missing out on something? Has this been here the whole time? But I believe that that this is all kind of new, really, because I've been out here for a while, and I never heard about coming downtown and being able to walk through all these new, beautiful shops and the revitalization of downtown, being able to see all these artists and musicians, just everybody coming together and celebrating the same thing. So for me, this is all new to me, to be honest with you. And I think it's great. I think it's something that Fresno really needed when it happened. And I'm glad it happened, because there's just so much talent out here that's, how do you keep that boxed up for not everybody, or well, to where the public can't see it, you know?
So
I think it's great.
your art was displayed here at CMAC.
Correct.
Talk about how you select what becomes displayed, because I imagine you have a lot of pieces of art. Did you just kind of say, all right, this one, this one, this one, or talk about that process?
Well, the majority of the art that I do have is called, it's part of a collection I have called the Love Collection, where a lot of the figures in it, or the symbol in it, is the heart balloon. And I could have brought all of it, but given the space that I had here, which is more than generous, there's a lot of space here to fill up. I had to kind of just pick and choose which ones were going to fit in which areas, and how they were going to look next to each other as you walked in and progressed through the facility. So that was kind of hard. There was some stuff that didn't make it here, unfortunately, but the stuff that I did bring was the stuff that I really wanted to show. There's a couple pieces that are going to a buyer that agreed to let me show it for the 2 months before I sent it out to him. So that was very, very appreciative of that. But it's always hard picking. It's kind of like picking which kid's your favorite kid, you know?
Right.
Like,
It's
so
tough.
It's tough. And I mean, you hope that you get another chance to show the rest of it later, and everybody else can see the back half of it.
So there's a heart, a balloon heart, in all of the paintings somewhere.
Right.
Sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it's not. Are there do you try to hide it, or is there, like, talk about how you decide where to put the balloon?
Well, the balloon itself is, it's more than just a symbol, like just a ornate object that's just in the painting. It's symbolizing how much love is in the picture, or how much love is affecting the character in the picture. So some of the heart balloons, and there's just hearts sometimes too. They're not meant to be hidden necessarily, but some of them are full and lifting up an object, which would signify, well, love is kind of uplifting type thing. There's some that have balloons that don't have any flotation going on. They're just on the floor, so that would signify that there's a lack of love, or no love exists there. So it all depends on the person's interpretation, if they can put those kind of pieces to my madness and just figure, okay, well, this heart balloon is moving this object in this way, it must signify this. So it's kind of, I try to leave it up to the person looking at its interpretation, aside from my own interpretation of it.
So when you displayed your art here, people came through and looked at it. Talk about some of the reaction. What were people telling you? And were you kind of just listening? I could just imagine you listening to what people are saying.
Yeah, I was here for a little while, and you know, I kind of just stay out of the way unless somebody asks a question regarding the art. But the people that were here when I was here, you know, they really appreciated the art. Really thought it was very whimsical and creative, a little bit different from what some of the other art that had been displayed on Art Hop during those months was. And it's, I try to listen a little bit just to get that feedback of what this person's interpreting this as. And that kind of helps me look at it different myself from my own perspective.
So, we were talking off camera about kids and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So if a kid wants to be an artist, some parents will say, focus on being some other profession where you can make a lot of money.
Right, yeah.
But some kids love art.
Right.
In your opinion, how important is a parent and their support of a child who wants to do art?
I think it's very important, not only just with art, but I think, being a young kid, when I was a young kid, I wanted to do so many things. And unfortunately, I was never taught that, like, you can make a living doing art or doing what you love, and it's totally possible. I think just as easy, or not easy, I take that back, just as possible as it is as somebody growing up wanting to become a doctor and going to medical school. All these things are very challenging, and the resources are there just like they're there for art, any kind of art. And so I would say that for a parent to encourage their child, if they're really wanted to pursue art or be an artist, I think that is, it would be very important for somebody to recognize that in a young child, especially for a child to really have a passion for doing art. It's something that should be fed and nurtured.
You mentioned that a couple of the pieces you displayed were sold.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about the feeling when someone actually says, I want to buy this piece of work.
Oh,
Isn't
man.
it like, wow, you created something
Right, yeah.
that someone else really likes.
Right, yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, I'm very honored when somebody really loves a piece and wants to purchase it. And I mean, I'm nowhere near getting rich off of making money off my paintings, but it's the feeling just that somebody connected with it is so much more than that. And I'm all for, selling my art and getting rid of it and letting somebody else enjoy it in their own space and time. And it's a great feeling. I can't really compare it to anything else because there's nothing else I create that somebody wants to buy. So,
lighting. Let's talk about lighting.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Does good lighting make the piece, and does bad lighting ruin the piece?
Yeah, a lot. So from what I've experienced is, if anything you paint outside in the sunlight, it's going to look awesome in any kind of indoor light. That's just from my experience. That's the best lighting you can get. Not necessarily direct sunlight, but just to be outside, fresh air, nature. If you're inside and you just have like a desk lamp with a light bulb on it, it might look good in the dim light, but once you put it under some nice lighting, all the flaws are going to be there. The color that you mix might not look the same as you did. It all plays a part, and I would say even just decent lighting is good enough, but it's something definitely to keep in mind if you're painting something that you really want to present.
So now, do you have a specific style, or is it like, some people say they only use oil paint, or some
Right.
people water paint. Talk about the style and what you use to make your art.
Well, the style, I don't really have like a style or I'm an impressionist or, abstract painter. I do a lot of acrylic painting on canvas. I also do some woodwork or painting on wood with plaster that's chiseled and sculpted into like a 3D textured surface. So one being the rhino that I sold to a buyer in Reno was a big piece of wood that was rhino was sculpted on it and painted with acrylic. There's one that has fiberglass, a 3D fiberglass trunk coming out from the elephant. So there's so many different mediums. It just depends on where my imagination's at that time for that piece. I would work with rocks if I could, if it was something I needed to do.
And you mentioned rocks, but on the way to Vegas, there's that artist who put colorful rocks out, and they're very bright and colorful, and it's become a tourist attraction.
Yeah.
So it's so interesting what people can make with art. Do you try to work with art daily or weekly, or, we're all busy like we talked about earlier, but do you find time for it? So where do you carve out that time?
Well, it's usually after work. I do work a 9 to 5. Usually after work, weekends, I try to do something with art at least once a day. If not once a day, a couple times a week. And I mean, you just have to make time at this point. I've lost so much time previously. It's like I don't want to do that again. So yeah, I make it work somehow.
What advice do you have for the next generation? I mean, if there are kids out there who want to get into art but really don't know what to paint or what to draw or what to create, what advice do you have for someone to get them to start?
Well, I would say just start small. You don't need to go and spend all your money on expensive canvases or color pencils or paints. I get a lot of my supplies as cheap as I can, from where I can, but still not compromising quality. But anybody who wants to really get started in it, it's very easy to get the supplies to actually do it. You just need the motivation to want to do it, or the creativity bugging you enough to do it. And I think there's a lot of people out there who have creative minds and who want to do something different. They just don't have that push or don't know where to start. I wouldn't even know what to start drawing or painting type thing. It's like, just put the pen to the paper or the pencil to the paper or the brush to the canvas and just start going. See where your mind takes you. See what starts to transpire just by your own movements, unthought movements, and, oh, well, this looks like this. Maybe I'll run with that. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It's whatever your own interpretation is. And you can't try to compare yourself to somebody else because your art might be different, but it might speak volumes to somebody else, as opposed to trying to compete with somebody who can paint really hyper-realistic paintings. And not everybody's that kind of painter. So everybody's unique in their own way, and I think everybody's creativity is special. So they shouldn't ever feel like they're not as good as somebody else. That's your creative spark and your creativity. Nobody can ever match that. So just go for it.
And it's really up to the person looking at it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a piece can touch and talk to me, and it may not talk to someone else.
Yeah, you're right. Exactly.
When do you know when your piece is done? Because I could imagine you being the artist, you'll get it done, and then like the next day you'll say, let me add this. And then the next day you'll say, let me add this.
Yeah.
But when do you in your mind say, okay, enough, it's time for me to walk away from this piece? Or if not, maybe you never finish.
I think you can never be 100% done with something, because it's like the painting I just finished a couple days ago, it's still up on the wall. And I still go in there and I'm still looking at it. But when I finished it, I finished it twice because I finished it and I looked at it some more and I added a couple other things. And then I was just like, it's perfect. That's it. It's almost like a sense of like anxiety kind of leaving your body. Not really that you're anxious when you're painting it, but you want it to be good. So there's this like, there's a little bit of tension within yourself to not mess it up. Once that's gone and I can look at it and I can feel like relief that it's done, that's how I know it's done.
Constructive criticism. I'm a fan of, if I'm doing something not wrong, but if I do something and someone has an opinion on how to make it better, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Some people aren't.
Right.
Your opinion, is constructive criticism important for an artist?
I would say it all depends. Constructive criticism could be very useful if you're doing something, if you're painting something that is going to be a replica of something else.
Good point.
If you're painting something that needs to look like this, it's good to have somebody tell you, well, it's a little dark on this side, or the colors aren't right on this piece. If I'm painting something that lives in here, only in here,
good point.
I'm going to paint it how I see it.
Very good point.
Yeah.
Very good point. So do you showcase your work? I mean, people listening to the show now who are curious about where they can see your work and what it costs and connect with you, how can they do that?
Well, they can check out my Instagram page, which is the main social media platform I work out of, and that's Ricky Hill Jr. Art. And same goes for Facebook. I'm hardly ever on Facebook, but same account, Ricky Hill Jr. Art. You know, they can follow that, see my updates, stories, process that I'm working on, new projects. I upload some pretty cool videos of me painting the paintings. They're hyperlapse, but you can actually see the process. To look at the pricing and to possibly purchase prints and stuff like that, you can buy them on fineartamerica.com. And there's another website that does the clothing part, which is threadless.com. So I'm slowly but surely getting my stuff out there as far as being on the internet, selling products. And a lot of the times, people who are interested in buying the art will look on Fine Art America, look at what it's listed as the selling price, and then, you know, get back to me on email or on Instagram. So yeah, it's working out pretty good so far.
And I see your shirt. Awesome.
Yeah.
It's one of your paintings, right?
Yes.
And so it's the elephant with the balloon,
yeah,
with the heart balloon.
That's King Tusk. So that painting, this is like one of my favorite paintings. And unfortunately, this one is going to be getting sent out to Los Angeles to the buyer who wanted the original.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a big accomplishment there.
Thank you.
And people from out of town are reaching out to you to buy your work.
Yeah.
You know, we're running out of time this week, but what a game changer Instagram is, right? Like,
oh, yeah.
I used to not be on it, and everybody was like, you need to be on Instagram. How important is it for you as an artist to showcase your work on Instagram?
Oh, I think it's wonderful. It's grown so much since I opened my art page. It's at this point, I think it's fundamental for people to be on Instagram showing their art. There's so many people on there with art and showing paintings. It's
Game
almost
changer.
It's a game changer, man. And I'm reaching so many people, and it's come a long way, to be honest with you.
So, Ricky Hill Jr., thanks for coming on the program. We wish you the best, and we hope that you continue to sell your work. And, you know, one of your artwork went to Reno, the other one went to Los Angeles. Best wishes and many more artwork getting shipped other places. 'Cause
Thank you very much.
That means people are liking your work.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, and we'll have you back later
Yeah.
on in the year to talk a little bit about what else
I'll be happy
you're
to.
doing. That's all for this edition of the Central Valley Ledger. Thank you to our technical director, Gary Johnson, who's in the studio making us look and sound good. Thank you also to our guest, Ricky Hill Jr., who is here
Thank
talking
you.
about his artwork and his style and some of the different reasons he got into art. Thank you to those watching this broadcast on CMAC, Comcast 93, and AT&T 99. We hope you learned a little bit more about art and the area and art. And thank you to CMAC Studios, where we're recording this studio. That's all for this edition. Tune in next week to a new edition.
KFSR and CMAC present the Central Valley Ledger every Sunday morning at 11:30. For a complete program schedule, visit kfsr.org.